Welcome to the Wisconsin Chiropractic Association podcast, Back to Basics. I'm your host, Dr. Chris Rush, president of the Wisconsin Chiropractic Association. In this podcast, our goal is to give you thought-provoking conversations with leaders in healthcare, business, politics, and various facets of life. It's our goal to provide you with knowledge, wisdom, and inspiration that you can apply to your own life. Today, I'm speaking with Dr. Alex Kocken. Dr. Kocken is a 2013 graduate of Northwestern Health Sciences University and has been in private practice in Pere, Wisconsin for the past 10 years. Dr. Kocken talks about the crucial steps he took to open his chiropractic practice and shares valuable insight regarding the ongoing strategies he employs while he grows his business while maintaining a healthy work-life balance. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Dr. Alex Kocken. Good morning, Dr. Alex Kocken. How are you today?
Good.
Fantastic. So thank you very much for meeting with us on our WCA podcast this morning, Back to Basics. And I am going to fire away right away with a standard question that I like to ask everyone. What inspired you to become a chiropractor?
Well, that's a fantastic question. Short version or long version?
Give me what you got.
Yeah, the earliest I can remember, I usually don't have a wonderful memory of exact details of, history and things like that. But for whatever reason, I seem to remember, facts and things of that nature. But from what I can remember at a decent early age, and I want to say about high school, like maybe freshman year-ish, we would talk about, different careers to do. And that's kind of what spurred, thinking about, what to be interested in, what to look into, who to shadow. Started having some conversations with my parents about, where to look for that, what kind of talents did I have, things like that. So going off of that, I remember writing a paper on chiropractic. I have no idea how that occurred. I think I had to interview the chiropractor that I currently my parents had gone to. And then a bigger moment, more experiential moment was I think we were going up hunting, and I think it was a Saturday morning, which I don't know how many chiropractors still have Saturday morning appointments, but that was a common one, back in the day. And we were heading up, and for whatever reason, this particular time, I remember going in and watching my dad get adjusted and just being wowed by it. It was just very different. It was hands-on. He kind of had that body language of went in, little posturally uncomfortable, you could tell, and got adjusted, and immediately, the look on his face, the size of relief, then it spurred me to ask a few questions of, hey, what is he doing? Or, what's going on? And his response was just, you should go sit down with him and ask him those questions. I'm not the, one who's going to answer those, the best for you. And so I think I had another school project where I did ask him. I think I asked a different chiropractor that turned into, kind of fell in love with that a little bit. And then to cover my bases, I toured a few other different practitioners, got to watch a couple orthopedic surgeries, hang out with PT for a bit. Those were super fun. But at the end of the day, the other deciding factor, looking back on it, I don't know that I would have known this at the time, but after looking at it going, hey, I think I'm going to go to school for 8 years. My parents sat me down and they're like, this is not free. we need
Yeah,
to,
right.
we need to have you working in the summer, and, you need to make some money. And so there was an entrepreneurship class that I had in high school that we had to write a business plan. And so I wrote a business plan for a landscaping company. I won a little mini grant that kind of kicked it off. And then from there, I had that from I think age 17 to 23. And it turned into building patios and retaining walls. And so I got bit by that entrepreneurial bug. And chiropractic was the one where when I was touring it, it had all the stuff that you like. It was hands-on, less sitting at a desk, pounding paperwork as compared to a few of the other practitioners that I toured. And you also had an opportunity to own your own business, which was attractive. And story-wise, there's a couple other things in there. I guess I had my own chiropractic experience once. Once I was kind of pretty sure on that, I had a bunch of sprained ankles in high school playing sports and basketball. And I had gone in to, get adjusted because at this point I was very interested, but I hadn't had like, any complaints to go in and, check it out. So I kind of used that, went in, and I think it was back pain. I had back pain from landscaping, and it was like the secondary thing where the chiropractor was like, "Wow, you sprained your ankle, both of them 8 times, a couple ER visits, you're wearing braces all the time." And he'd kind of connected, saying, "Hey, like how'd you sprain them? Did you land on feet?" And I'm like, "No, I just, would land on in my, wouldn't go properly." And so he would kind of connect like, "Hey, your low back, there's some, nerve things, the nerves in your low back, they supply those muscles. If they're a tick slow when you're playing a sport like that, and you're fatigued, maybe you're just not getting those muscles to fire, catching you, and then your ankle rolls and it's too late." And I remember kind of thinking, I like that, but this seems a little out there. Reality was, though, I mean, after I started getting adjusted, I did not. I mean, I had a couple sprained ankles, but they were more landing on a foot, rolling it on a football field. They weren't like the previous ones. And for me, that was the one where I think I was a little bit more solidified in, this is pretty nifty. And then the other one is, I think, just like a lot of chiropractors, there's that attractiveness of, we're going to go at this from a, natural standpoint. And the adjustment is, it's a pretty powerful natural technique where it's not very invasive. You're not adding anything that's different in there. It's relatively safe. And that, for whatever reason, that was something that I really connected with. And I saw that incredible power of the adjustment and what it could do for people. And I like that whole model. And it kind of had steps, and it grew, through a variety of experiences.
That's very cool. You were inspired in high school witnessing chiropractic with your father, and then you take an entrepreneurial class, start your own business in landscaping. I'm sure you gained a ton of knowledge doing that, which then still helps you today. And I'm sure helped you when you started your chiropractic business, because I know you're an independent practitioner, and we'll get to that. So off to undergrad you went. Where was that?
I attended St. Norbert College in Pere, got the pre-med degree, and then headed off to Northwestern Health Sciences University in Minnesota.
Can you tell us a little bit about your time at Northwestern?
So I didn't know quite what to expect. Graduate school prior to attending it is a little bit daunting. And then it was probably the farthest away from, home I'd been. And the other difference that I didn't think would matter, but greatly did, was the kind of the going straight through the year thing. Like, you would even have school in the summer, which wasn't a big deal the first summer, but I feel like the second and the third summer, it's very difficult to study hard, in Wisconsin summer.
That was typical landscaping season for you.
Yeah. So I mean, there very much was you could tell, you're like, wow, I mean, people need rest. We're not robots. We cannot pound through things. And that was kind of always something I was accustomed to doing, whether it was in sports or working, was just like, hey, we got to get this done. Like, let's get it done. That definitely led to a little burnout. I think it was like fifth trimester. I remember thinking, wow, I can't believe how much more trying this was than I thought. Normally, you'd always kind of been able to put your head to the grindstone and get it done. But that was a surprising aspect. Other than that, I mean, I met my wife in Minnesota. I went trade going to another chiropractic school if that meant not meeting her.
Good
uh,
answer.
yeah. And we had great friends. I had great roommates, great couple guys that we lived with in the same little facility, and it was a wonderful experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I don't know that I'd go back and do it a second time, but I don't. I'd do it again.
Okay, so you're at Northwestern Health Science University studying chiropractic. You meet your wife, so I'm sure that took a bit of your focus and time. But what about other things? Did you join any clubs? Were you part of any organizations while you're at chiropractic school?
Yeah, one of my chiropractic mentors, who's now retired, Peter Shuby, WCA member. He had told me before I went to chiropractic college, he didn't give a ton of advice, which is good because when people give small bits, when you really don't know what you're getting into, I feel like it sticks more. And he just said, go be a great adjuster. Just make sure that you can adjust when you come out of school. And so the clubs that were attractive early on were like motion palpation. There was a couple, I don't even know, I don't remember what they were, but basically we got to go and we were, practicing setting up adjustments, practicing some different adjustments early on, and getting our hands on people more than just was required in school. And those were big.
Very cool. So let's move forward. You graduate from Northwestern and you are now in private practice in Pere, Wisconsin. Can you connect the dots a little bit for me on the decision to go independent, to go private, and then choose Pere?
Yeah. I was always aware that, going in and starting my own clinic or buying another one was a real probability. I had no idea how to get there. I feel like as you approach the end of school, it's hard to do. It's really hard to, meet people and develop those relationships enough where somebody would take a risk on you with little experience early on. So I had tried, but also contextually, we were, several years past that great financial recession. So if you could remember back to that time, there were not chiropractors hiring other chiropractors at that time. It was kind of if you have a job, just keep rolling in it type of thing. And, it was not like today where I can look in a classified ad and I can find 25 chiropractic, job openings and such. It was, you might find one, and it may not even be in the area that you were interested in.
Just to bring that perspective in, I mentioned in your introduction, but I'll just mention it again now that you graduated in 2013. So that's the time frame we're looking at when you're looking for either taking a job or creating your own job.
Yeah, that was fascinating. So the other one was that was when we were doing the whole political government shutdown things, which created some interesting things when you're trying to do an SBA loan. Those were a whole bunch of factors, and I think everybody in a different time frame has different hurdles that they're gonna be strung into. And at the end of the day, like getting through a lot of those things where you really got to have a strong support network. I mean, I was fortunate enough to have plentiful amount of people that I could go and ask, for help, opinions. Even if they weren't chiropractors, you would be asking them, different small business questions. Other people who had gone to, graduate school or are trying to seek, jobs professionally. Every one of those, you honestly never know. You don't know what you're going to need. Nobody knows the future. So a lot of times, like having those relationships where you could go and lean on different people and ask some questions, people in those environments and who've had different experiences, valuable ones whom you trust, those are invaluable. I don't know that I could even put a price tag on it. I know I wouldn't be here today without the support of a lot of different people, some more than others. Yeah, so then to kind of go forward, I interviewed for a job, or I think I interviewed for one associate job. There was no other jobs in the area that I was looking at that you could even interview for. I looked at buying, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 different practices. I know 2 for sure. Again, there was not a lot of practices for sale, at that time either. I think a lot of people are just holding out for, 2 or 3 more years, and then they were going to try to, go ahead and do that. So anyway, I did an interview once. I do remember one that I did an interview, and we got done, and the chiropractor who I was interviewing with told me that they were not going to waste my time by hiring me. They totally knew I was going to go start my own clinic at some point. And that was kind of a bummer, but at the same time, I appreciated that they were like, "Yeah, you're game ready. You should be out there."
Apparently, that was really great advice because look at you today. You mentioned a point that resonated with me just yesterday when you were talking about surrounding yourself with really good support structure and good people. We had a staff meeting yesterday and we were reflecting on that some people just have great strengths in certain areas and right person for the right job, wrong person for the wrong job, that type of thing. And not everything needs to go across my desk to make sure that it's the right way to do things. Some people are just more creative and they've got talents in areas that maybe you and I don't. So
Oh yeah,
picking
for
and
sure.
choosing and again surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah, and I feel like over time, I'm sure you could attest to this too. There's things that you now know more about that you could mentor people on, but previous to having a mentor walk you through a situation, you're like, I didn't possess that, prior to somebody walking me through that. Part of just being a chiropractor and then being a business owner in general is just paying attention and learning from the failures, and then also learning from, sometimes they're not failures, you're just doing something and you're like, man, I could do that differently, and just kind of paying attention to all those different things and learning them over time. And the cool thing about this profession is you get exposed to a
Sure.
lot of different things, I think a lot of small business owners get exposed to.
Yeah, definitely. And, on the topic of mentorship, I know that's important to you. And being who you are as a chiropractor and a business owner, sometimes you have different mentors for different purposes. Do you have a source of knowledge or wisdom or mentor or podcast that you go to? And I'm going to ask you from two different angles. One as a chiropractor and one as a business owner.
Yeah. So I would say, especially for, a young practitioner, forge those relationships with other chiropractors. And I feel like the big one is that, you're thinking, well, I mean, how would I do that? Ask people if you can go out to lunch with them. Just develop natural relationships, get their cell phone numbers. So if you have a question, you can text it to them and ask, or you can, shoot them a call or an email, whatever it may be. Those were invaluable. And one of my mentors, he told me to join the WCA, and that led to more mentors. And so there's like a thing where, when you're showing up to a, fall convention, especially when you're a 1 or 2 year, new chiropractor, meeting people. Obviously it's great getting continuing ed, but there's a whole bunch of other events. Like there's some different get together events where you can meet people. There's different political events that you could show up to, which those are great. I always just tell people show up to them, because guess who you're going to meet? You're going to meet chiropractors who care about the profession, and those are people that you should be interested in being mentored by. Those relationships are invaluable. I mean, I could think of 5 or 6 off the top of my head, but there's many more. There's also that version of a mentor that you may not reach out to, but you learn about them, you hang out with them, you see their style of practice, and you go, man, I'm learning stuff from you, and I didn't even ask you a question.
Very true.
And then business standpoint, I mean, I was extremely fortunate that, I mean, my parents I would brag up my parents all day. They were super, super supportive. I hope to be that supportive of my own kids, in a way. And they were supportive in a way where they didn't do stuff for me. They like let me, get thrust into a situation and kind of learn from different stuff. It was just, I don't think it's super normal that parents were, letting their 17-year-old drive around with a trailer, taking on landscaping projects. I now look back as a dad and go, man, that must have been like a second job for my father. But I greatly appreciate it. I learned so much from it. And his, it didn't stop there. I mean, they were supportive going through starting the business. I would reach out to him like every month and ask him various, business stuff, tax questions. Hey, I got to know a question about this. Like, who do you ask for that? It was invaluable. And then the other one that I haven't said yet is when we started out, it was my mom was my front desk, and her and I just learned insurance and contracts and in HICFA forms and billing. And again, same thing. Like there's no way that, I have a practice, if I don't have that support going through it. And I think for a lot of chiropractors, I think that sentiment holds true. It's usually family. It could be your wife, it could be your spouse, it could be, your mom, your aunt. That's the other one. My aunt is also my other front desk person, and we hired We just hired one maybe about a year ago. So we had the same crew of three, including myself, for 10 years, and we just had one other one. And so over time, like we've been very blessed with consistency. We've all learned things together, and you just really can't. I don't think a lot of practices are blessed with that. I mean, it's so incredible when you have a front desk person who's learned everything with you for 10 years and knows probably more than you.
It's interesting because you mentioned you've got a lot of great resources with your dad and his business background and your mom and your aunt working in your practice. But where did you learn the valuable lesson to ask questions? Because I'm picking that up in you right now.
I definitely have a stubborn streak. Again, I don't know where I learned that, but I would venture to guess that I definitely probably learned that the hard way.
Gotcha.
Whether it was, out doing a landscaping project and just grunting away in 90-degree sunny weather, and then having my dad stop in on his lunch and then look at something and be like, man, I can't believe you're doing it that way. Like, this is so easy. And then he drives away, and there's this feeling of, man, I'm glad he told me that, but also, wow, do I feel defeated from the sun, beating down on me. And I think next time I might shoot him a call if I don't, if I have a
Sure.
question. I would venture a guess that it was probably a stubborn streak. The other big one is just, I don't know that I would ask questions of people that I don't trust. And so you got to figure out how to have relationships where you trust people that you can reach out and ask them. I mean, I wouldn't ask for advice from, chiropractor I met 10 minutes ago, but those take time to, develop relationships and feel that natural ability where you can just kind of reach out and ask questions. But yeah, I'd say I probably got broken into being able to ask questions.
There you go. Like I said, very valuable lesson, and it's a skill that you have to set pride along the side to do.
Yeah.
So moving forward, a typical day in the life of Dr. Alex Kocken. You're a family man, married, children, you run a busy practice. Let's talk a little bit about the business side of your typical day.
Yeah. I feel like one of the very attractive parts about being a chiropractor and being an entrepreneur is the long-term ability to work for 40, maybe 45 years. I mean, you do not hear of people working in a career that long. That is rare.
Mhm.
And you go to like a convention, you hear it all the time. I mean, there are chiropractors in their, 38th year, their 42nd year, and I don't even know if they're planning on retiring. They just love it. And I mean, I think one of the longevity pieces of that, the nature of the job is something that's very sustainable to have a family with. It's very sustainable. You're not working night shifts. You're working during the day. You're able to make sporting events. I mean, I always hear all the time that from other chiropractors that they're able to, be at their kids' sporting events, or even better, coach, volunteer. Chiropractors are always volunteering in different areas. I know for the WCA Chiropractor of the Year award that one of the criteria is what a candidate is doing outside of just, their business. And I love that definition of success. There's more than just clocking a certain amount of revenue per year. There's more than, patient visit average, how many office visits you're getting, things of that nature, that the chiropractor of the year, that there's a component of, hey, what's this person doing in the community? And people are busy. What a great opportunity that this profession has to have time to, volunteer, serve, and get out there. It's a super great opportunity that we have. Professionally, like day to day, I mean, there's kind of those hot spots that you find that people like to book in at. So I think most people figured it out, but usually it's that, like, the morning time frame, like, 8 to 10, and then usually there's a little lull, and then you kind of see a bunch of people like 11 to 1, and then there could be, a little lull, and then you see a bunch of people about 2:15 to kind of the end of the day. And so in those little pockets of breaks, that's where, from a business owner standpoint, that's where we kind of work on like, hey, what are we doing marketing wise? How's the accounting going? Do I need to do anything for, different note audits or other stuff? That's usually in a typical day, that's kind of it's kind of how we structure it and kind of look at it. And there's always stuff to do in that downtime as we have it.
Let's flip over to work-life balance. You're a family man. Can you talk about that a little bit?
What a great blessing. That's the other thing when you go out and you start a practice, your spouse better be on board. I mean, we didn't make money for 2 years starting out, and I was totally reliant on my wife's income and her getting out there and doing that. And that can be mentally straining. It's one thing to say it, but kind of living it's a whole different thing. And I think for a lot of chiropractors that have started their own business, I think they can all say that, your spouse is a major component of your success. And even to this day, I still couldn't run my practice if my spouse wasn't 100% all in on board, even though she doesn't work there. I mean, what she does affects your business, and kind of what we do together, affects the business. And I know that you guys have your situation where you guys work together. That's fun.
Yeah, I have the benefit of being married for 33 years and working with my wife in the office for 33 years as well. So, and now I've got a couple of kids that are chiropractors and physical therapists as well. So, yeah, we're speaking the same language, Alex.
Yeah.
It's a huge benefit to have someone on board with what you're doing.
And my oldest daughter told me to make sure that I drop in the podcast that she's interested in being a chiropractor. Because I asked him, I was like, hey, what do you want me to say anything about you? Because they love that stuff. And then my second oldest, that's how she wanted me to rephrase it. I have two daughters and a son. And the second oldest,
Tell us the ages, Alex.
8, 7, and 5. And so
Wow,
we're just ending the
fantastic.
school year for time's sake, context. And yeah, my oldest, yeah, she said, hey, drop it that I'm interested in being a chiropractor in the future. And I'm like, that's super cool. And then
You'll
the
probably be hearing from the admissions department at Palmer and Northwestern shortly.
can I start paying now? The
Yes.
Then my second oldest daughter, she said she's interested in being a vet. I don't know if she understood the context of the podcast, but I'm like, it's fun to see.
Hello, everyone. I have a question for you. Where do you go when you face a business or administrative challenge in your practice? I'll tell you what I do. I go to the Wisconsin Chiropractic Association Help Desk. WCA Membership Services Director Tammy McGowan has an extensive career in chiropractic offices and with the WCA. Tammy can assist you with a variety of topics ranging from billing and coding, insurance, compliance, documentation, HIPAA, record retention, and Medicare and Medicaid. If you have a question about workers' compensation or personal injury, we have Dr. Jeff Wilder, who is a national consultant and former practicing Wisconsin chiropractor who can help out with all those pertaining issues. If you're looking for legal advice, attorney Barbara Zabawa is on our team from the Center of Health and Wellness Law to provide legal counsel. The other great thing about the help desk is it's super easy to access. You can send your inquiries to wcahelp@wichiro.org or simply call 608-292-1804. So jump on board with the Wisconsin Chiropractic Association #1 member benefit, the WCA Help Desk. wcahelp@wichiro.org or simply call 608-292-1804.
Yeah, no, work-life balance. I think being a chiropractor offers a great work-life balance, especially being a small business owner. You can scale your business to whatever suits you. And there is one thing I'm always curious of, just those the chiropractors where their father or their grandfather, and how far back it goes. I would always be curious to listen in on that. That would be, I feel like that would be even more information. That's something that I've never experienced. That'd be a super cool thing to listen into.
So one thing you can do is go back to a podcast we did with Dr. Steve Yeomans.
Yeah.
He's a multi-generation chiropractor and obviously one of the most respected chiropractors in the country,
Oh yeah.
not just the state of Wisconsin. So that's an interesting podcast that we did in the past.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to listen to that, and I knew of some of the stuff, but just kind of listening to that journey on how he had, gotten into other things and in some of the doors that were open there, where he was able to just kind of walk into a clinic setting, and then certain chiropractic pavers had been laid, and it's almost like his chiropractor brain is more developed than some of ours before we even get into practice. And then he went full bore into some very cool opportunities with other medical doctors and research opportunities. That was a fun listen. I would highly recommend that people do that. But yeah, other information, I mean, I'll listen to a couple podcasts. I think Dean Smith runs a chiropractic science podcast that I enjoy. There's a evidence-based chiropractor podcast that I enjoy. And then books, a lot of them I just pick up. You go to a convention and there's different speakers that come, and sometimes they take you by surprise. Sometimes you're already interested in it. But one of them, I know the WCA brought Don Murphy. And man, I mean, if you have not read Don Murphy's CRISP protocols, wow. I remember reading that book, and that was, that's in one of my top 10 books. It's so realistic. You spend all of school learning all these orthopedic tests, and then there's Don Murphy walking you through, well, why would you do that test when you can do this one? You only, he's under the impression like, hey, there's limited time. We want to solve problems in a limited time, and tell me your hardcore, very specific purpose of, why you would choose this or choose that to figure out, the person's, answer and get them better as fast as possible. And I felt like when I read his book, when I read it, I was like, man, I've already been through, like maybe 40% of this process of kind of figuring out what he literally wrote down verbatim. And so then it was kind of like, as I approached the chapter where I'm like, I haven't been there yet, I'm reading through going, yeah, that logically makes the best sense to clinically, dive into that. And then from there was another, I think the WCA was the first state association to bring the McKenzie method, or, to kind of go through and get one of those classes in the entire country. I don't think they'd ever partnered with a state association on anything. And I got to go down there to Jeff Surgent's Cedarburg chiropractic office. And that was another one of those things where, we got done and I went on Amazon and bought all the McKenzie books, read through them. And that's been, man, those are so useful. Again, I would tell any young chiropractor, I mean, if you haven't heard of those, I would go get those books immediately. Very, very useful.
Alex, you mentioned podcasts, and you also previously mentioned multi-generational chiropractors. I want to mention also that we did a previous podcast with Dr. Jason Mackey from LSM Chiropractic, and there are 19 plus clinics in the South Central area of the state. Jason has a ton of great information about being a multi-generational chiropractor. And then in addition, we also did a podcast with Dr. Tom Edwards that isn't out yet as we are speaking now, but that will be out at the end of June. Tom is a multi-generational chiropractor, and he has a lot of fond memories of working with his father and then branching off and then opening his practice here in Wisconsin. So those are great podcasts to circle back to, along with the podcast that we did with Dr. Steve Yeomans. All right, next. So let's talk a little bit about your toolbox. Patient care. Obviously, there's the adjustment and there's everything else. Alex, I'm going to ask you a question. If you had a patient with whether it's acute back or neck pain, and you had one tool in your toolbox to get that patient better, what would that be?
Besides the adjustment?
I was hoping you were going to say the adjustment, but I guess that goes without saying. So
I was like, yeah, 100% the adjustment. If I'm leaving out the adjustment as a total assumption, I'd probably go with like therapeutic
Mhm.
exercises. And then if we wanted to be more specific, I would say if I only got to pick one, I would probably take that McKenzie method of therapeutic exercises.
Yes.
So dangerous. Man, you get a person with a, disc injury in there and you're doing chiropractic plus a McKenzie protocol. And then they experience that relief in 2 weeks. And if they didn't come to you, they're an MRI injection surgical candidate. I mean, in 2 weeks, you're like already making progress, reversing this thing, and then pretty soon they're on to the, like that. Stu McGill's got some great stuff. That'd be another book that I'd recommend. I totally forgot about that. He has like a he has a book called Back Mechanic, and then I'm gonna mess up the other book, but if you just search his name, I feel like you'll find it. It's like Ultimate Performance and Fitness, something like that, with back. And man, those are great books. I mean, that's usually like kind of how I would progress somebody through like your, radicular, neck or radicular back is go through the evaluation, whatever imaging we need, adjustment, pick the style that's going to, work the best for that patient situation. And then I'd start with McKenzie stuff, keep it simple for people. Once they get those results, then I start to kind of layer in some of the Stu McGill exercises to kind of solidify it and kind of pull back on McKenzie. Sure, McKenzie people out there probably, I don't know if they like that or whatever, but
All right. You graduated in 2013, so now it's 2024. So you are 10 years in practice. I'm still going to categorize you as a young practitioner, Dr. Alex.
appreciate it.
So for the students that are listening to this or the young practitioners that really want to go out there and just open their own practice, can we circle back a little bit and talk about some of the things that you found invaluable to developing your practice, whether it's location, community involvement, software?
Yeah.
What, where would you steer someone that asked you, how can I be successful in chiropractic just starting out?
Yeah, I would say location is massive, especially starting out. I think as you develop a reputation in your community, I'm not sure on this, but my guess would be that location would matter less and less, just because people are gonna know who you are and they're gonna be able to find you, especially with the internet. But starting out, man, location's big. The other one would be, and I didn't really know this, but software was big. Having a software that does more for you, especially from a billing standpoint. So I feel like one thing that I learned was picking a software based on how well it documents for you, and then forgetting that you have to account for patient ledgers and billing and claims. Different softwares do that way, way, way better. I would encourage people to pick a software that does all the billing stuff really well, collects payments. Maybe it can store a credit card, like an HSA card for people. People really enjoy that, makes it easy for them. Something that can, auto download EOBs and take the EOB numbers and then put them into your ledger. So you're just reconciling most stuff at the end of the day. And if it fits those things, then maybe look at, how it documents from, your perspective. I would just say don't pick a doctor-centric software, pick a staff-centric software, because if you can get that component, that seemed to work a lot better for us.
That's
Um,
excellent advice.
Another one would be learning accounting and cash flow, learning how you want to do accounting, getting a really good accountant. I mean, I can't stress enough on like, man, guys, get a good accountant. Like if you're doing your own taxes, I mean, you're missing out big time. Because the things that your accountant teaches you helps you look at your books and make business decisions. And so I would encourage people to like just get a really good accountant for chiropractic, but also get a good accountant for small business. What a major benefit that person can be to you. Yeah, other ones, trying to think for practice growth, I feel like there's always a lot of different things and modalities that chiropractors can add into their practice. And I would always stress to people, don't try to do everything, try to pick try to pick the ones that are really, really, really good. So if you're going to do nutrition, my advice would just be, hey, go pick one nutrition company, use them. Don't make it super complicated and use like five. We use Standard Process. They are fantastic. They're unique. They have whole food stuff. They're based in Wisconsin. Their service guys are like second to none in like almost any industry. Shout out to Cody. And another one like Laser, we kind of take that simple approach instead of having 10 modalities. I just have Laser and it works great. And the nice thing is clinically, when you're trying to make a clinical decision to like, hey, what modality should I add in, like you're not picking from 10. You're just picking from your go-to thing. And yeah, that's pretty nice. We use a Power Medic laser. That's been great. That's blown my mind on some of the conditions you can really help people out with. Works great for different tendinopathies. Sometimes I call it my when a back pain or a neck pain patient isn't getting better as fast as I'd like, I kind of call it my way of cheating.
No, I get it. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other one we just added in foot levelers. So I guess time will tell how that works, but so far so good. It's been a great thing to be able to offer custom orthotics, and it kind of fits our model of it's super simple. People come in, they scan their feet, and it's very affordable compared to their other options in this area. Oftentimes, it's a fourth of the cost of the same or comparable thing that they could get somewhere else, and that's kind of one of our core principles is like we want things simple and we want things easy. We want them convenient, and we want to deliver more value than that person is even expecting.
Very cool. One little thing that you taught me is actually you do an email blast in the newsletter format on certain topics, and then you do offer online scheduling. You taught me a little bit about educating your patients on a certain condition and then having an icon where they can schedule online. And that's been very successful for you from a business builder standpoint.
Yeah, that's been a newer thing. I feel like as the internet has developed, and maybe not the internet, I would say probably more like as smartphone use has developed and become the more popular way that people are doing things. That online scheduling thing is, guys, that's a crazy realm. I want to say I'll bet you 70% of our appointments are booked online. I mean, that is wild to me. If you would have told me that in 2015, I mean, I would have I don't
Yeah,
know
if
if
you
I
think,
believe you. Yeah.
well, if you
It's
think about it, when someone's at home at 7 o'clock at night and they've got back pain and they think about scheduling an appointment with you, if they have to call, they're not going to get a live body at that time. So why not schedule online?
yeah, it's great. And it's one of those things where that's what we need the internet for. That's what smartphones are for. That's what makes it easier. I also feel like with the smartphone comes great distractions, but also there are great uses that come out of it.
All right. Well, as we wrap up here, Alex, you mentioned a little bit about the WCA and convention. I'd like to definitely invite everyone out there to consider coming to convention. It's a great way to collaborate with practitioners, collaborate with vendors. Some of the assets that I have in my practice have come from either advice I've gotten from other chiropractors or meeting with certain vendors on where to refer people for an MRI, with different financial packages or software, laser, all of those things. So that's where I met you actually, was at a convention.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I have a lot of great memories, spring and fall convention, and I think there's, hope to have a lot more. Are you guys releasing who the keynote speaker is for fall convention yet? I got wind of it, so I was very excited.
Well, I guess I'll take this opportunity for the big reveal. Our keynote speaker at the WCA Fall Convention will be Dr. Michelle Myers. So she has quite an extensive background, and as a lot of you may know, she's a former board member of the World Federation of Chiropractic. She's a past American Chiropractic Association president, and she currently is the Executive Director of Research and Innovation for Northwestern Health Sciences University, and she's also the co-director of the RAND Corporation. So she is one busy person, and I'm looking forward to her keynote address at the WCA Fall Convention, which just happens to be at the Kalahari once again. Great location in Wisconsin Dells, and the date for that is September 19th through the 22nd. So, yeah, very much looking forward to hearing Dr. Myers again at the WCA Fall Convention at the Kalahari. So, yeah, Alex, you heard it on the street. So, there's the official reveal.
I I love how those things come to pass where it's another chiropractor who knows another chiropractor that can get, that can ask, these people to come to Wisconsin, the state that nobody passes through.
All right, there you go.
um, and and the other thing is just, when you have a convention, like you can get speakers like this, and you don't have to travel. You don't have to travel far to get national and I would say world renowned chiropractors to come to your convention that you can sit and learn from them. I mean, over my years, there's been people that have spoken that I've disagreed with, but still, they're listening to them, come and talk. It's invaluable. Like you can learn a lot, and more often than not, there's just things that you're unaware of. Like I know I'm not going to be fully aware of all of what Michelle is up to in chiropractic, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she has to say and what she's up to, and seeing if there's different ways that myself, the WCA, or other chiropractors can participate in that. With whatever she's up to. I have no idea. I always get excited about those things. Those are great opportunities.
Absolutely. So, Alex, being a young practitioner, I'm sure you're up to date on all the latest and greatest. What is your opinion of the future of chiropractic?
Yeah, it's interesting. I like where it's going. I think there's a lot of drive, a lot of cool things. Chiropractors have always been unafraid to stick their nose, in different places. And as much as we can be different, we're unafraid to go into uncharted territory. And there's a lot of different practitioners out there that are doing that. I think, was it Eric Kirk what was he starting here? Is it the first private chiropractic internship? I'm probably getting the language wrong on that in the country. That's super cool.
There's a couple things on that front going on. There's a fellowship that's being started with Freighter.
Okay.
Dr. Jeff King is a big part of that. And Eric is also very instrumental in their residency program that they're going to be doing at Aurora.
Yeah, that's just super cool. Other ones are, I know we bat big in Wisconsin, which I love that state pride. I know, was it Brenda Holland's big in working in that chiropractic Congress, which is like a association for all the state associations, and that's super super cool to see that strategic vision of what they have going on. The other big one that I see for growth from chiropractic across the country in a variety of different ways is just more involvement in treating chronic pain. I think we're positioned very well for that. I think it's up to us to capitalize on that in a variety of different ways. The other ones too, I mean, even since I started, the VA and chiropractic has been growing. There's a lot of chiropractors going to work in a variety of different areas. And I know sometimes we can dog on people for like, oh, this person is a chiropractor in the VA and this person's a cash practice. But I mean, guys, we need all of those.
Yeah,
All of those
definitely.
people are driving the profession forward. And there's patients that can benefit from chiropractic in every one of those avenues. I see it as a pretty big deal. Just having good connections in colleges. I think I'm a little bit far removed from it now, but having the colleges just have solid teachers and having chiropractors connected with colleges, having chiropractors connected with their state associations, having them connected with their national associations. Just there is value to institutions that I think people can kind of get rubbed the wrong way with various institutions, but stay in it. I always tell people, even if there's one thing that rubs you the wrong way, there's value in moving forward together on different things. And it's good. Like if you have a problem with somebody, just, go talk to them about it. Like don't just leave or don't cause a scuffle. I'm like, go try to resolve your problem, face to face. And that's one thing that I've appreciated about the WCA is we're a big tent chiropractic association. As a solo practitioner, I can participate in the WCA, and right next to me, there could be another chiropractor who works for a hospital participating in the same thing, and we can get along and we can both drive the profession forward. We can talk about the things we care about. And I love that. I mean, there's diversity within it, and that diversity is a strength. It's not a weakness.
Alex, as we wrap this up, do you have any final comments that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I would share joining an association, getting to know chiropractors face to face. Such a valuable experience, guys. Don't go through your whole career to miss it. If you haven't done it in your 30 years in practice, I would encourage you to do it. If you're 2 years in practice and you just thought, man, I don't need any continuing ed, I'm like, get out there. We're always working on an island or in a bubble, and it's nice to get out and meet other chiropractors and develop those relationships. And we just don't even know where it's going to go, and that's kind of the exciting part. I would just encourage people to value that face-to-face time, value the in-person time. It's such a blessing to be able to do that. And then I thank you, Chris, for inviting me on the podcast. And then I apologize if there's any background, Lego car noise for my son.
Hey, work-life balance right there, taking the time
Yeah,
away from
yeah.
family to spend some time with us today. So there you have it. Dr. Alex Kocken, born and raised in Northeast Wisconsin, 2013 graduate of Northwestern Health Sciences University, in private practice in Pere, Wisconsin. Alex, I want to thank you for everything that you do for chiropractic and what you do for chiropractic patients. And you're a true inspiration for many. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.